See this logo here? You can find this logo on YouTube Music, or go to my channel, the JTF Student Podcast, go to the podcast icon or playlist icon to see more podcast episodes easier. It looks better, obviously. I'm gonna try to be as short as possible. Just like Crowder's correcting some things, it's gonna be quite short, sadly. But before we really begin into it, I just want to get this comment here out of the bat. Remember, guys, when Crowder says we have a lot to talk about, you know there's going to be a lot of stupid nonsense about to come out of his mouth. Just stupid nonsense in general, so just be prepared for that. And oh boy, it's true.
Worker accidentally misgendered someone, which... And you notice these misgendering videos? They almost always go the same way.
There's usually violence, and I haven't even seen this one.
It's never like, Tom Cruise getting squirt with a flower with a corsage. Like, hey, you're a jerk.
It's usually how a woman reacts.
No. Thief.
And so it begins.
You're like a man.
You're a jerk. Hey, you're a jerk. Hey. Why would you do that? Because you're Tom Cruise and it's funny? No, you're a jerk. If anyone doesn't remember, that was hilarious. He got remember that he got upset about the guy squirt water from his flower.
Then he lets Fallon break eggs on his head.
And he stole the oxygen from his co-pilot in the plane, and they passed out. He was laughing about it on David Letterman. The point is, you freeze in time once you go into Hollywood, and Tom Cruise has never become an adult. So, this teamwork...
seriously, look who's talking, Crowder. Look who's talking, Crowder. Look who is talking, Crowder. Come on now. Come on.
It's accidentally misgendered. It's exactly what you would think. Also notice, you never hear the misgendering take place. You just hear the reaction. And what a wonderful country we live in. Here you go.
No, stop trying to gaslight trans people and tell us that we're crazy. Crazy. You need to fucking be mindful of other people and stop being a fucking scumbag, and you're a liar. I heard you. Stop fucking gaslighting trans people. Alex, I'm gonna be talking.
Yeah, he's got a point. We usually just see the reaction, because who wants to, know the reason why people are spurging out and everything's in flames? We like to see the flames, and that's just a cultural issue that I probably really address in this country, in Jesus Christ's name, amen. Because we all want the blood sports. We don't have time for the information. We just want to see people yell at each other. Because it's easier, it's faster, and it gets to write more points. To be blunt.
Hey, that's bullshit.
Sometimes.
You're fucking harassing.
I want to order a Mender pig.
Yeah, you do. And I'm walking out and you're like, have a good night, sir? What the f*** is that? No, you don't fucking do this to trans people. This is discrimination. No, this is discrimination.
He's just trying to say, I didn't say, sir.
Harassing people with this, it's a slur. Do you not understand?
Is this real?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he did say the T word. It sounded like that. I don't know. So I just... Again, who wants the details? Come on.
Is a slur. Is a slur.
It really does sound like Trey Parker, and this is a fake chicken leg.
Look, I love how now they have the entire employee committee going, what in God's name is that thing?
Of course.
Sorry, sir. I'm stoned out of my mind.
Yes.
Stoned out of my mind selling chicken.
Yeah.
Everyone here wants to be dead. No one wants to work here.
They're all just
You've seen those videos of how chicken McNuggets are made, and it looks like sort of the bubblegum flavored toothpaste you had when you were a kid.
Yeah.
I'd rather be that.
Or at least plastic.
It's Los Polios Hermanos, and Gus is about to come out of the back.
I had to do 9 hours of this, and can you just yell at me the whole time? It makes it so much better.
It's kind of like the RNC, right? Well.
You came in moderate
say
shorts and
that.
clown makeup, and I didn't know. Caitlyn Jenner, we'll get to the next thing with Sean Hannity, said, with pronouns, my mother gets it wrong. It's not, this happens all the time. Look, there are people who are passable, there are people who are not. I always just try and use the name of the person because I'm not looking to offend somebody, but there's a strong likelihood with that person.
Oh,
I would get it wrong. And
so hard, just calm down, Crowder. It's just say, oh, you're this, all right. Because I'm not I gotta see your penis. I gotta look at your chest. I gotta identify. Dude, calm down, please. Please calm down, sir. This is a Popeyes. Calm down, sir. You're like, oh, alright. You're this, alright. Sky is not falling, this is still up, so, everything's all good. Everything will be okay.
People need
folks.
to be aware of here. That's not a stable person. I just want to be clear about that. Is not a stable person. A, I don't believe that person was misgendered. You see this all the time. They think that it counts as evidence. And B, look, that's not someone looking to achieve a goal. If a straight man were to go, and let's say an employee were actually disrespectful and said, "Yeah, asshole." Look, you have either a goal here where you want to de-escalate the situation, and you shouldn't be looking for a physical confrontation. You would say, "What'd you call me?" And maybe slap them. You wouldn't be getting hysterical solely for the purpose of attention.
The attention would be the slap as well, Crowder. Does he not see this? Does he literally not see this, folks?
This is a narcissist who is looking for attention. This isn't someone who wants an actual confrontation. This isn't someone who actually wants the manager, who wants to correct a wrong. This is someone who is acting like a child.
Or care.
But a synonym for that is brave and beautiful.
Yeah.
Or it's very Christian and he's just defending his faith, guys. I mean, he had to make a public scene about him praying. Like, he couldn't just done it by himself. What's Matthew? What do you mean?
Let's just assume that he actually did. Who's the bad guy here?
Yeah.
The video.
I have no idea, because, I mean, yeah, I want to agree here. The point is not the information, it's the flames. It's the inflaming of division. I mean, information, what's that? I just want them to yell at each other. You know?
It shows very clearly that person, we don't know which way, but it is the bad guy.
Yes.
The chick is the problem.
Yeah.
The young person behind the counter, because I
Just say the young woman or girl, because they clearly look female or at least woman or what. It's just like, it's quite simple. Just say she, but it's very hard for them for some weird reasons. If they can't see, let's pretend your legs. I mean, you never know, right? I mean, not perverted at all, folks. No, the left is the perverted freaks here. I mean, come on.
want this to happen twice.
Yeah.
Who's wearing sweat-filled gloves and has a mask over their face. It's like,
We saw about the person there, the guy, I'm assuming. Most likely the guy. All right.
300 degrees.
Yeah.
I have to dress like a surgeon while selling you chicken. Everything's stupid.
In my defense,
Well, that's not stupidity. That's called actually being smart, because, chicken is quite delicate, and, some salmonella, things of that nature. If I'm correct, this was in 2021. Yep. This was during the pandemic. That's not stupid. Like, I don't... Right-wing comedy's dead, folks. I think we already established that already. I think we already established that.
ma'am, I thought you were a fever dream. Kind of like when I first watched the Dracula with Gary Oldman and Keanu Reeves. And I was like, did someone slip me the date rape drug? By the way, we have a P.O. box. You can send it to me. I have not been sleeping.
Yeah, we'll see. It is a great way, though, to get in for my drift.
Hannity interviewed up here, which happened, that I just thought was worth noting.
I'm pro illegal immigration. I want to organize. We really have to
You're pro legal immigration.
What's that?
You're pro legal.
Legal immigration. Yes. Pro legal immigration. Sorry, did I miss the legal part? Thanks for catching me. Yeah, you got my back, Sean. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, Sean does have Caitlyn's back, as opposed to Bill O'Reilly, who has her front.
The thing sucks.
Oh boy, the imagery was Bill O'Reilly doing this, his hands at Caitlyn Jenner's private area. How is he like girl? What's it called? Girl ballers? What's his opinion on woman ballers? Whatever that movie, if you can call it a movie, from Daily Wire, that was basically the right wing version, and the point of the Barbie movie kind of was against. Who knows?
Caitlin's like, joke's on you, can't feel a thing.
Man, can you believe
Totally numb.
Can you believe she's 71?
Caitlin's 71?
Yeah.
Well, you said she. You said she. Whoa, 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 whoa. Well, that's going too far. On the right, you crossed the line. Normal people are like, oh yeah, she. All right.
Oh.
Well,
Wow.
credit where it's due.
Yeah, wow. Surgeons.
Now
did a
I
great
feel
job.
bad for saying that
Interesting.
Caitlyn looks freaky, like something you'd find at Madame Tussauds.
Yeah.
I don't know many
Do you
71-year-olds.
know-
I mean, honestly,
Wow.
good for Caitlyn.
She doesn't
Do
look
trans
not
people
bad.
live forever?
I
Is that a
think-
thing?
Theoretically speaking, yes, if you let them live without their lives, they can achieve immortality. It's just the problem is that their mortality is shriekened by the hatred of the right. So, if you really like immortality, if you really want to discover that, I think let trans people be themselves, because most of the time they're not doing anything to anybody else. They might be ninth place, and I guess that's sad for that one biological female who should have been at ninth place and didn't get their degree or medal. I guess that makes sense. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, I'm not responsible for that one.
No, that wasn't against the
No,
rules.
you're right, though. I mean, she doesn't look a day over
That's a
ridiculous.
Fresh out of the wax museum. You're right.
Madame Tussauds.
By the way, Caitlin, would you like to be on the show?
Yeah,
Caitlin, we'd love to have you on the show.
I didn't.
Non-hostile, folks.
All in good.
Oh, I would
tell her,
absolutely
I'd
have
say you
Caitlyn
look
Jenner.
great
Yeah, for 71.
for a 71-year-old woman.
Yes.
I said woman.
Yeah.
You did
Hear
say
me
woman.
roar.
I would say, look,
See, now part of your shows will get cut for that one. Nowadays, yeah. So oopsie doopsie, in the chat, So
in your defense,
You know.
I'm not into, but in your defense,
in your defense, you are a normal human being who, when they see something as a woman, they call it a woman. They don't care about the genitals. So, you're doing quite great. It's just you're not with the normal people, so it gets kind of confrontational.
probably aren't any 71-year-old women with whom I wouldn't be repulsed. So,
Yeah.
Is she
Better than.
TikTok,
Yeah.
don't stop, bigger honors in the clock.
Listen, better than Pelosi, okay?
Yeah.
So.
She could pull down some weighing on a cruise ship. Am I right?
Yeah.
Everybody, Caitlyn tonight.
Isn't
Captive audience,
Isn't this a
yes.
great way to get into the Asian hate?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I
We'll get that
guess.
later. And by the way, hey, look, just remember, Asian Americans, we didn't use you like the left did. We
No,
talked
not at
about
all.
the rising Asian hate crimes and where they were
Eh.
stemming from.
Yeah.
And
And then, if I'm correct, it was because of your dear leader, President Trump, talking about the Chinese virus. You call it Kung Flu fighting, and a lot of people are like, hey, you're the ones who did this. Not the Chinese government, not the communist Chinese government, but just Chinese people in general. So there was a lot of rise of hate crimes from Asians, and we've seen the pictures, we know why. But, he's gonna to try to not say that. Well, obviously, of
also
course.
talked about affirmative action and how there are quotas and how Asians are discriminated against in universities.
No, that is true, or say was true, because the Supreme Court did do something good. Affirmative action, I talked about how that was a right call. The episode before Michael Knowles was with Stephen Crowder, if I remember. Talked about that there a little bit.
But you are now yesterday's news with the left. So we're going to...
Well, no, it's mainly with just media in general, because there was a lot of other stuff that was going on, because that's just how that works. So it's not just a left-right thing, it's just a media thing. I mean, have you heard the latest news on Ukraine lately, really, on nightly news? Israel? No, because nothing really big happened for their ratings to say, yes, go, green light. That's just fact.
keep paying attention and make sure that we highlight the truth. So I haven't really heard a very good kind of all-encompassing case as to why DC, of course, should not be a state. It was designed to never be a state. It was never intended to be a state, and that still should be the guideline. But right now, this is something. Remember the cop who shot Rayshard Brooks? Now, I know these names bleed together.
Yeah.
Rayshard Brooks was in Georgia.
The
Wendy's the one
guy,
who beat two cops,
Yes.
stole the taser,
Yeah.
aimed it at his face, and was, the victim of good shooting.
Yeah, and then they burned down the Wendy's.
Yes, they burned down the Wendy's.
Of course they should.
Well, he's normal. So, if you don't remember, actually, before I get to the story, the update here, here's actually the clip for people who don't remember. And I think this is important because then you're not hearing a peep from the media. And I want you to remember, put this in your memory bank, okay? Maybe bookmark this specific show because I guarantee you'll have the same situation with Micaiah Bryant. Right, LeBron James came out. The media came out. #1 trend for a very long time. Then it turns out, oops, stabby stab. They just let it go away. Same thing with Rayshard Brooks. Right, it was everywhere. The Wendy's was burning. They were talking about deep had a long round. So they.
Hey, the drink to be driving. So put your hands behind your back for me.
Threw him. They wanted to defund the Atlanta police. Of course, then most people saw that and said, okay, we were sold a false bill of goods. Well, officer, is it Garrett Rolfe?
Looks like
I believe it's Garrett Rolfe. The officer there, Rolfe. I know his last name is Rolfe. He was originally fired, charged with felony murder.
pretty hefty.
Unbelievable.
Well, no one wants to talk about this because this shows the kind of crap that officers have to deal with on an ongoing basis. And there was no due process there. So we see a clear-cut example.
Right. And
don't forget about it.
This was in the height of all the things that were going on over the summer, I think, where people just were looking for the next incident. And I just remember when this happened, I thought, if as police officers, if you can't use deadly force in this situation, you never can. And thinking like this would be clear-cut. I'm so glad that this is heading, it seems, in the direction of him being fully exonerated and saying, hey, sorry, our bad. You did the right thing here. There was a bad situation that you didn't.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Somebody's trying to tase you. They can hit you in the freaking eyeball.
Well, I think they need better training because there's no world in which two cops should have their ass kicked.
Never,
by a perp like
right?
That shouldn't happen. I'm sorry. It shouldn't happen. That should not happen. We need better. But the problem is, well, then we don't allow chokeholds.
Right.
So we don't allow chokeholds, and people don't remember this. The big problem was with tasers a few years ago. I remember in 2009 to 2012. And so then they made it where you had to achieve a certain level of experience and rank to be able to have a taser on the force. So now they only have lethal tools available to them, and they don't have physical training. Send these cops with their training that you see in most police departments, send them into a college wrestling room, a high school wrestling room, send them into a local jiu-jitsu club. They'll get wrapped up like a child from people who've been doing it for 6 months. Give them 6 months training, but you have to allow chokeholds. You have to allow physical discomfort from police officers if you want to avoid death. Physical comfort is what forces some kind of compliance. Otherwise, you see what happened there. And we kind of had a split here in the Chauvin Floyd situation. I think we're all in agreement there that obviously the cops had to do something.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they
did have to do something, but them having to kill him was not warranted. It was obviously
it's a weapon.
Yeah, they consider a taser a
after
deadly
beating
weapon.
their asses.
Yeah.
I mean,
They actually wanted to take tasers away from them, saying that they were deadly weapons potentially, and we don't want you to have them. But if they're in a perpetrator's hands, it's not a deadly weapon. It's just a taser.
He just had a taser.
Yeah.
Well, he just had the taser was an extension of his. It's like think of it as a PCP arm, like Jax from Mortal Kombat with tasers.
Yeah.
I guess what I don't get is he can take that and hurt anybody, and they're aiming it at you. What you have to use the equal amount of weapon?
Yeah, it's they
already
they don't have it.
It wasn't
That's
doing
what I mean.
anything.
I mean, that is equity at its fullest extent if you don't understand equity in a more professional sense via DEI, which basically you want qualified people, but qualified people who are diverse, equitable, and inclusive. That's actually the professional ideal of DEI, because diversity is usually an actual strength when done rightly, but the examples that some people have had is not that are basically the DEIation of certain entertainment. Sometimes like Disney is like, put this black person here because, even though it might not make sense, like with Lord of the Rings. But the ideal of DEI is qualified people who are diverse, equitable, and inclusive. People who know what they're doing. But now, the government seems like DEL is actually the right thing. DEL is domination, echo chamber, and loyalty, which I already talked about it there.
It's not. They don't have it. It's actually
He has it. It's like, he got a taser. Looks like a good old-fashioned tase off, boys.
Yeah.
Shit.
Well,
No,
if he tases a cop, he's got a whole utility belt full of other weapons he could then take.
No shark repellents. No trans pornography. No. I mean, what do you want police? I don't understand. Like we can't shark repellents. No trans pornography. No, I mean, what do you want police to do? I don't understand. Like, we can't only be empathetic to criminals who have a rap sheet a mile long and who are currently involved with assaulting officers. You can't only empathize with them. I don't back the blue unilaterally. I think they do a bunch of crap that I'm upset with. Specifically arresting people for not wearing masks, which we're about to get
okay.
into. But, come on, I don't look to exclusively empathize with lifetime felons who are in the process of committing assault that could very quickly escalate to murder. And we'll get to the anti-Asian hate crimes in a second.
Well, and you're going to lose your license for 6 months. Don't do something that's going to put you in jail for 5 years. That's the part that I don't get. You don't want to fight a cop.
Right, you don't want to.
Or get the DWI lawyer from Texas. Did you see that guy?
Oh, yeah. Where the lawyer said, the judge said, don't bring that in my courtroom.
Yeah, he put like $15 million away for the cartel or whatever.
Oh, no, I know you're something. I thought you were talking about the judge who said, don't bring the race into my courtroom. Or the
No, it was like just about the cartel where he's like, I'll just...
Speaking of masking, officers arrested people.
Speaking of, before we speak of that, I want to catch up with my comments here. So, again, you're right, Crowder, in the sense, just in general, it seems like you're right, but you're actually wrong on the specifics, but kind of wrong on the premise. So, you're right, Crowder. I just disagree on the problem and the solution, but I do agree that we shouldn't let some things slide, like what you said about Asian hate crimes and about so-called police brutality, which, based on him and based on the footage, he seems to be on the right with that particular case there. By the way. Don't let it slide for the right either of what happened on January 6th, the insurrection, which is debated upon, basically, for me, it's like it was an attempted insurrection. Their intent was to insurrect. Their intent was to overthrow the government because they believed that it was stolen, even though it wasn't stolen. So, that was inside, okay, I say this for some people, the interaction that was accidentally incited by former President Trump, now current President Trump. You can't forget what the right did on January 6th. We can't let that slide. Don't let the right put it in a box of forgetfulness. Don't let that happen, or don't let that happen again. I'm not including any violence against the right via, we won't let this slide, we won't forget, don't use violence, folks, obviously. I'm not for any physical encounters with the right, left, center, etc. Anybody. I'm just saying, don't forget it like Crowder. Don't let that slide unless if the right apologizes and change, which some have, some haven't. It seems like unilaterally the right is... since they got the power, they're not really going to talk much about it. Some are still trying to see, hey, we need the case. We need to see how it was stolen. And others are like, we got to move on. We're doing great, in their opinion. Some are like, no, Trump's unconstitutional now. So it depends on where you are on the right there. You're right again, but for the wrong reasons, Crowder. You're right that police should have better training, not just to beat up people or just shoot 20 bullets at people. The police don't need to bring tanks on people who are not a threat to where you need the tanks. You're right. We need better training against... better training for... We need better training for police to not shoot and ask questions later, or shoot and de-escalate later. So you're right, we need better training. I do agree that we do need more physical training for our police officers, because they can't just rely on weapons. They have to also rely on their own strengths. But I think what he wants is not necessarily the right thing. Obviously.
This is something we need to touch on here. Hopefully we don't get banned for this.
Yeah.
We say there is no definitive scientific study, and I've still asked, no one has sent me this, that shows your mask stuffed in a glove compartment, any reusable mask that you are using in the way most Americans are using it, actually effectively blocks the transmission of COVID. Okay?
Nobody said that. Nobody is saying that at all. Nobody has ever really said that at all. At all.
Me that not sanitized masks that are thrown out, that are applied with surgical gloves in a hospital setting, the study doesn't exist. But we can now go one step further and say, absolutely beyond any shadow of a doubt, in some scenarios, not all, masks hurt. They cause harm. And
very, 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 very smallly in a sense, yes. But people already been saying there's exceptions for those who hyperventilate or who can't breathe well. You shouldn't wear a mask. But if you don't know that information and you feel like you have to, you might die. That's a possibility, but that's very, very small, but important because those were lives that were lost, sadly, due to the lack of information. But, generally speaking, overall, that did not happen.
Need to weigh the pros and cons. We're at that point in our life. Look, it's been going on for over a year. I think it's time to weigh the pros and the cons of mask wearing.
We didn't do that for the Black Plague. We didn't do that for monkey flu, if I'm correct. Not monkey flu. For Ebola. I don't think we did that for pig flu, because we understood this is going to take a while. Or Spanish flu, for that matter. It seemed like people back then at least somewhat understood. It's like, oh, that was just yesterday's pandemic. Come on. Move on. It was like, no, we still got a lot to learn from it. However, the Black Plague was a little bit different, because superstition was all-time high back then. It was more reputable and more respected, unlike today, which is a good thing.
But the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, the doomsday lady, said that kids playing soccer this summer still need to wear masks. Here you go.
The CDC has issued guidance on summer...
Which, if I'm correct, generally speaking, what that means is that, after they do the soccer, they need to, breathe, take some water, all those things, and then most likely still wear the mask. Not necessarily as they're playing, because obviously we know now that's bad. And I think even somebody who I know, a family member who's a nurse, was like, yeah, obviously not that. But also we didn't really know how bad it was. Again, this was 2021. Still quite recent.
The CDC has issued guidance on summer camps for the summer that advises kids to wear masks except when eating or swimming. Outdoor activities and sports, they need to wear masks, avoid close contact sports.
Thanks for throwing the swimming part in.
Last summer that there were outbreaks in summer camps, and the kids had to go home. They had to not attend these summer camps. We're trying to make it possible for these kids to be able to have as normal of a summer as possible. If people are playing tennis and they're far away, we can say that their masks can come off. But if they're crowded on a soccer field, they're on top of each other, they're heavily breathing. We don't really think that's a good idea right now. These are kids who likely will not be vaccinated.
Hey, guess how I know what she just said is bullshit? She just said if girls are playing soccer they're on top of each other. Have you ever seen 7-year-olds play soccer on a regulation-sized field?
Like miles away.
The most likely score is 0-0, and someone shows up with a bouquet of dandelions, okay? I have nieces who play soccer.
I feel like she should be looking at her cousin.
And I do have to admit, this is somewhat true. Sometimes the people who are the experts aren't so keen to everyday experiences and observations, if you can say that. So I would say she might be a little bit, not necessarily understandably, she has not experienced soccer, But that doesn't mean, therefore, whatever she says is wrong or of the devil or bad or whatever. That just means she is out of touch with most experiences for a lot of people, like soccer. So I would give that point there, to the right a little bit. But the right just goes too far with it, and It's like, now the left seems more normal now. Thanks, right-wingers.
Arian telling him not to be ridiculous.
Soccer players are right on top of each other. It's against the rules of soccer to have any sort of aggressivity or masculine gameplay.
Being on top of each other. Okay. Sir thing, Crowder. You with Spartans, I get it. I get it, Crowder. I get it. I see that. I get what you mean. I saw that in the window. I get it. I get it. But I think what she's saying is sometimes kids, I don't know if, I think Crowder would know this, like to sometimes tackle each other to the ground, dog pile. I used to be a kid. I know these things. He used to be a kid. He should know these things as well. So I think that's what she meant there, but again, I think how she said it was like, they're very close to each other. It's like football, folks. But no, that's not how that works in soccer. But, you know.
Alone with girls who have to take double the strides.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, does the NFL wear masks when they play? How about Major?
They do. But they literally do. They literally have helmets. They got protective wear. Like, yes, some do have a little mask thing there. Not like medical mask, but as somebody who's a football fan, I'm like, yes, they literally do.
Soccer. How about any of the other professional sports around the world that don't wear masks at all? And so now you're saying that kids are at unique danger from
Yeah, but if you come to my house and play masketball, you better be
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's just him hitting you with a ball while you wear a mask.
A lot of heavy petting.
Don't let the fire fool you. It's not a fun. Masketball is not. It just hurts.
It's just you're in a mask and there's teabagging.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
So
the drink.
Like I was saying that Lipton. What I was saying is it hurts. It hurts. It hurts people. So let me get to this. Maggie Williams, she's a high school track athlete in Oregon. Now, we have multiple examples of this, but this is a more recent one. Collapsed at the end of her race because of the mask that she was required to wear. To be clear, she set a record when she was doing this. So she set a record. She was pushing herself, as athletes tend to. You can't compare yourself sitting in a cubicle or, God forbid, a government employee where you're working in a cubicle all day.
Or a chicken restaurant.
Right. To an elite athlete who is trying to set their personal best, let alone a state best, let alone a national best, to try and get maybe, I don't know, a college scholarship. If, God willing, there isn't a man who decided to throw on a maxi dress and compete in your division.
No, the more realistic situation is that the man, quote unquote, in question, the trans woman, actually is like at 9th place. And it's like that. You know what? My daughter was taken away at 9th place by a man. It's like, oh. The majority of people, whether negative or positive for trans people, don't care about trans stuff. They know that is the majority of Americans. Now, if you might say, okay, well, you mean by you don't care via this or that, it might differ, it depends, but generally speaking, people just don't care. They just don't care. The ad that Trump made against trans people did not win him the election necessarily. But since people don't care, maybe a little bit of some, but that was mainly preaching to the unholy choir at that point.
This girl in Oregon, we have the clip. She was wearing a mask and she passed out and hit her face in the ground, and I believe may have suffered a concussion. Direct result of a mask. Here you go.
Happened, which I don't think is a coincidence.
Her coach echoing that belief, saying this was not a conditioning issue, it was a mask issue.
It was a different response.
Yeah, she is running with the mask on, and yeah, I would have to agree, like, no, you shouldn't wear a mask while running. Definitely not. I used to be in track a little bit. No, definitely not, no, and I think at that point, it was like, okay, I think we were overdoing it. But that doesn't mean they were trying to control everything. It was like, we just don't know this disease enough. And so some states compromise, and they were like, how about we make a compromise? And it was like, well, maybe not necessarily, but sadly, doctors don't have a say in everything. Look at the recent abortion laws and the anti-trans and extreme trans laws in America right now, folks. Extreme trans laws are like not pro-trans, but they're like they think they're pro-trans, but they're like, no, you're going way too far on this. Anti-trans is just anti-trans, and abortion laws, mainly in the South, are like ignoring the medical realities. So
I've seen for kids that have collapsed to the track just because they were exhausted. She wasn't sure where she was.
OHA listened, releasing this updated mask mandate Monday afternoon. The guidance will allow people to take off face coverings when competing in non-contact sports outdoors.
Well, at least they finally did it, but a little bit too late.
Yeah, that's
too
sad.
late.
That's heartbreaking. And by the way, we did a segment on this where I went and I trained at the gym, and my oxygen levels got to what we're told from the CDC, what we're told from American health authorities was too low. Yeah. It was hypoxia. So I experimented with this myself. If you look at the metadata, you can go to PubMed and see restricted breathing with mask, that of course oxygen levels are lower. And keep in mind, if one person pulls their mask down, let's say cheats there, they will have an advantage over their fellow athletes that Lance Armstrong didn't have with EPO. When you're talking about these performance-enhancing drugs, like EPO is blood, blood doping, to increase your red blood cell count. Why? So you can oxygenate the muscles, right, the tissues more effectively. Yeah. You're talking about maybe a 6% increase versus actually having access to oxygen
and passing out.
And regarding with hormones in trans people, it's usually that their competitiveness actually goes down if they are able to live their lives as they want to be, and they get the estrogen or testosterone that they need. Their competitiveness actually goes down most of the time. That's why most of the time with trans people, and surprisingly, if you get 3 on your team, that's very surprising, they usually are in the bottom, mid, or last place markers, because they're most likely not going to be at first place. The famous ones that we have seen, look at their placeholders, look at where they stand after their race or competitiveness. They usually either lose or they're quite at like 9th or 5th place, like they're not even close to anything really, because their performance competitiveness goes down actually. So this whole men are beating up women is just nonsensical and not true if you actually look at the data. But, Crowder would never say that, obviously.
Back of it.
And by the way, see a trans athlete run up with her exposed, just crushes her head while she crosses the finish line.
Just has them,
which again doesn't happen at all. But
mask is just some rings with a whole like Xerxes. Like, well, good enough for me. I used to be a decathlete, but this was always my real dream.
It's Alyssa Milano's knit mask with all the holes.
Here's a bumper sticker. Vote for Kirkland.
Get some smelling salts and tell her she lost her scholarship.
To a man.
And by the way, this is important. Not wearing a mask while exercising is already in line with the guidelines. You don't need to wear a mask when running outside by yourself. So this is a perfect example where it wouldn't be necessary. But here's the problem. Here's what happens. When you create a culture of fear, right? And you create a culture of Karens out there who go, why aren't you wearing your mask? Yeah. Why aren't you wearing your mask? Well, this is what happens. Even if it's in line with guidelines, you have enough parents who complain, who go to the parent-teacher boards, and so the coaches go, I just don't want to deal with this heat. I don't want to be fired because I'm following the guidelines, but they're mad about it. You know what? I had this when I was at, by the way, a restaurant.
Which does happen. That does happen. I would agree that does happen, because ultimately people are like, listen, I got a life, I got a family, I got kids, I don't want my paycheck to go away, so I will go along with it. And I think in a spiritual sense, if you're a Christian, you don't have to go along with it because God will provide. In a more secular sense, you don't have to necessarily. You can find another job possibly, but sometimes you can't, and it's difficult, and so that's why sometimes I rarely really say bad stuff if I know people who are on OnlyFans, because I don't know their life. I don't know why they chose that. It seems like they didn't have another choice. So, if they did, well, prayerfully they won't be in OnlyFans anymore, in Jesus Christ's name, amen. But if they didn't, prayerfully God will make them a way for a better job, in Jesus Christ's name, amen. As it should be. But let's catch up with some comments here. Nobody claims that masks block COVID-19. It says masks help to possibly prevent people getting the virus, maybe not yourself, but you protect others through masks. Again, this isn't rocket science. It's not rocket science. It's quite simple here. I think even lately, kindergartens know this. Nobody is saying that the vaccine is the cure for COVID-19, because it's not a cure, it's a vaccine. They're saying that it could possibly prevent COVID-19. Vaccines aren't the cure, but they do help. That's all that it is. It's not going to stop it, but it can prevent it to be worse. That's generally speaking how it's medication and risk and benefits, folks. How does mask harm you? And again, people who are hyperventilating or it's hard for them to breathe, of course, they don't need to wear a mask when you're running. You don't need to wear a mask. Now, some people like me can sprint while wearing a mask because what I do is when I really need to breathe, then I really do need to breathe, then I don't take of all of the I don't take all of the mask off. I think that's what I was trying to say. I just open it up, take a deep breath, and then close the mask. I don't encourage you to do that if you can, but some people can. Now I know how not wearing a mask harms a lot of people because you could spread the virus by not wearing a mask. We have multiple of true stories of this true fact that's kind of simple. There's other reasons why you should still wear a mask until you know, because it can or will develop, because that's how this works. Sometimes develop over time, and then eventually we don't need to wear masks anymore. Basically, process. My grammar was not that good, folks. It was really not that good, to be honest with myself. And yeah, I don't think I would encourage anybody to do what I did there. I didn't know that. No. I don't wear a mask while running. Don't do that. Okay? In general. I mean, yeah, soccer is usually a very open-like game, not a closed-like game. But I get what she meant by on top of each other, like hugging or huddling up very closely in a dog pile. And kids like to be very interactive sometimes, very closely interactive, so I think that's what she means. Yes, she could have said it a little more better, and could have clarified more, being honest, but again, it's logical. Why are you against logic, Crowder? Because he'll be out of the job, basically. Past me, that's why. Generally speaking.
And I had a cigar, okay? But they're mad about it. You know what? I had this when I was at, by the way, a restaurant, and I had a cigar, okay? I had a cigar, and a lady came over and said, "I can smell you taking cigar from over here." I said, "Well, you must be really sensitive because it's not even lit." I was going to meet someone afterward at the cigar lounge.
Yeah.
And this is just what, and they complained, and imagine if that person had the authority to remove my livelihood because they have an opinion and they think that everyone else is anti.
Be outed to their workplace, so they're saying, "Oh, you got to fire this person," or ostracized in the community. It's stupid. It's definitely like communist China.
We have an exact example of that. So none of this stopped, even though it's within guidelines. New Hampshire track coach Brad Keys from being fired for not requiring his athletes to. This is from within the last month.
Brad Keys was fired this week as the track and field coach at Pembroke Academy in Pembroke, New Hampshire, and he has been outspoken about it online.
I made my choice, he made his.
Keys says he was not going to force his athletes to wear masks while competing.
Masks restrict breathing. There's no question about it, especially think about running full speed. The wind is in your face. It's shoving the mask back into your nose and your mouth.
Gets you really tired, especially on it's going to get up to 80 degrees soon, and it's going to be really hard for us to keep doing what we like to do.
The New Hampshire Interscholastic Athletic Association's outdoor track guidelines recommend that athletes wear a face covering during competition.
Okay, first off, we just had an example of a cop who was felony murder, right, who didn't have due process. This guy, no due process. He was in line with the guidelines, scientific guidelines. By the way, so were we in the video that got removed on our 15-day, the anniversary, 15 days to flatten the curve, removed from YouTube. Because It highlighted the guidelines back then, which go against the guidelines today. Oh. Is there justice for this guy? People say, whoa, cancel culture.
I don't know about that. I don't think that was cancel culture. I just think that maybe, again, basically, it was like this. You are wrong because we still didn't get everything going. Now we have everything going, you are maybe right, but the reason why we were justified in maybe cracking down on certain things is because you were still wrong, because you didn't have the evidence to back it up. You didn't have the data necessarily. Or, based on your fruits and track record, Crowder, you were kind of promoting a certain term, and especially now with the virus that killed, thousands, if not millions, of people in the U.S. alone. So, big private companies might not have been so liberal in a sense. They're a little bit yippy, all right?
Consequence culture. The man was canceled for being
not good necessarily, but it's understandable.
Pro-science and following the guidelines. This is important. He just said, wearing masks impairs breathing. It impedes breathing. That's a controversial statement?
I don't think it was a controversial statement. Oh, I see.
Have any of you heard of training mask? I think this is something they sponsored not that one, but they sponsored the UFC. This whole idea was training at altitude, which, by the way, is a scam. It doesn't work. All it does is make you weaker for longer periods of time, much like CrossFit or being a professional soccer athlete. It doesn't actually work. You have to live it out for a very long time to get the benefits, and you lose it very quickly. The point is, that's anti-science. Making runners who are out there by themselves wear masks is anti-science, and people are losing their lives and losing their livelihoods. Sorry.
To an extent, that's true, and I would, again, agree that it seems like there was a little bit of people with the coats, the lab coats, that were saying do this, but it's like in reality that's not true, and people without the lab coats were like kind of right, but also people with the lab coats were actually also right, because some people in the lab coats were actually telling the truth, and others were not, because we're human beings. But the point is, we should listen to the lab coats until it's like, well, no, I think lab coats already said that. I think you, lab coat number 2 person, are wrong here. I tried to make the analogy work, but I think I just confused people. The point is, listen to the experts, but the experts might get it wrong because we're all human beings, but it's good to listen to those who are in the field of expertise. I mean, that kind of just makes sense. I wouldn't go to a Buddhist for Christian stuff. I wouldn't go to a pastor for Satanist, spiritual Satanist stuff. That just makes sense, Doesn't mean the pastor's right, necessarily, or the but point is, go to the people who know their stuff. They might get it wrong because they're human, but they most likely know what they're doing.
You know what? Hey, why do we separate them?
Yeah.
For a long time in the world, we didn't separate lives versus livelihoods. if you went back to a Native American, the culture that left
beautiful
so love to glorify. Yeah. If you went back and said, "Hey, I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to remove your land. I'm going to remove your property. I'm going to remove your ability to make a living. Also, I'm going to take all your weapons. And if I see you hunting, we're going to put you in this wicker cell." You'd be scalped before breakfast.
It's like, what else is left?
But we've now separated it because you don't need a livelihood. The government can be your livelihood. But let us remove it first.
And he didn't say that you can't wear a mask. He just left it up to them to make up their own mind.
Oh, well, that's dangerous.
Say that they had to wear a mask. I think that's exactly what the guidelines said.
Self-governance? Yeah.
Right? And this wasn't last year. This was April.
Well, let me just, before we move on here, I want to make sure that I get this straight. So you have to wear one while running, but people eating food next to each other, if they're sitting down, don't have to wear a mask. If they stand up to go grab something from the napkin dispensers, they do have to wear one. If you wait in line at the restaurant, you need a mask. But if you don't... It makes perfect sense.
It actually does make perfect sense, and this is how it does make perfect sense, folks. Yes, Crowder, it does make perfect sense. Finally, you're letting logic in your show. For now. Yes, when you eat, usually your mouth is closed. Most people are told that it's not polite to talk with your mouth open while you're having food in your mouth. Usually, when I'm eating with people, I take a bite. Then, while I'm chewing, I close my mask. You know what I mean? I put on my mask while I'm chewing, so that if I do talk, I have my mask on if I need to respond in a conversation that I might have with another person. Then, when I'm done chewing and swallowing, I just repeat what I did. I think it's the most logical way to do that. Not saying that my way is the only logical way, I'm just saying for me, I think that the most logical thing to do is that, in that situation, is that. Because if you still don't understand, usually when you're eating, your mouth is closed. Therefore, if you're not polite and you're eating with your mouth open or talking with food in your mouth, and when you're going somewhere else, you put on the mask, and when you're going to the bathroom, you need to wear a mask in the bathroom, because what would you be doing that would require you to not wear a mask if you're just using the bathroom? So at the end of the day, it makes perfect sense to do so. Point is, it does make perfect sense when you actually look at it. So basically, take the mask off, put it on, whatever, open, close. Like, it's just, and depending on the situation, put on, put off. So it does make perfect sense, Crowder, so, oh boy.
Oh. Also, I have a strange urge to download Microsoft Paint. Yes. Anything Microsoft. Spread of the virus, issuing early controversial orders to close schools and businesses, mandate mask wearing, and ban large gatherings, among other measures to keep people safe. Backlash and threats because you killed their grandparents.
And their businesses.
Yeah. And their businesses. By the way, let's also make sure she's winning an award right now. Her state currently leads the nation in nude cases as well. Hold it. So 450. You can bring this up to here. It's Kalaji Tokunawan. So 415% increase in cases from February to April. Do you have this, Kalaji? Yeah, bring it up. Vetoed the bill to direct COVID-positive patients out of nursing homes because she wanted them in nursing homes, and she purposely put young COVID patients into senior living homes with old people, which is why they've had these horrible numbers.
Oh my God!
Now let's contrast that with Governor DeSantis, by the way, who's actually taking steps, and of course they're better off than Michigan, even though Governor Whitmer tried to say that the reason they have an outbreak is because of Florida, despite the fact that Florida doesn't have the same outbreak Michigan does. Oh, I just want to hurt myself. Let's just go to the clip of DeSantis. This is what an actual governor.
Say real quick that they lied and said that the C on the award stands for COVID.
Bill invalidating all remaining local emergency COVID orders effective on July 1st. But then to bridge the gap between then and now, I'm going to suspend, under my executive power, the local emergency orders as it relates to COVID. I think that's the evidence-based thing to do.
Well, I thought that was important.
See COVID orders affect.
I think it would matter, for example, evidence and guidelines that you shouldn't wear masks while engaging in high-intensity aerobic activity, or putting members of the Crips from inner-city Detroit into.
Like, oh, you enacted emergency powers. Well, okay, tons of people did that. In really bad ways.
It doesn't mean anything.
But you didn't actually do better.
The entire state is in a state of Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
When you look at the people who still like Governor Whitmer, they don't. It's like, go anywhere outside of Michigan. Anywhere outside of Michigan, you will see that it's better.
So many businesses that I'm on an email list of, and I don't know how, but whatever. But they just send you an email just saying, look, she recommends that we do another 2 weeks. No, the answer is no. You can't keep doing this. And
go to Toledo. It's better in Toledo, and that's probably the only time I'm ever going to say that for Michiganders.
That's the only time anyone has ever said anything nice about Toledo.
That's true. The zoo's better.
Except VeggieTales. VeggieTales did shout out Toledo.
tell you.
The zoo better?
Yeah, the Detroit Zoo is not as nice as Toledo's.
Not a whole lot of award criteria. You basically just have to be a living American.
Very low.
And that's pretty much it. So
there's actually a section with
low.
criteria. They're like, oh yeah, well I don't know, just give it to her.
Throw it over there.
Like, you're responsible for old people getting punched by gang members. Here's some Golden Gloves.
Actually, I think Cuomo's a little pissed off. He's like, I killed more old seniors than you. That should have been my award.
Yeah, you know how many people I took out? Way more.
Yeah, so Whitmer, you can't hold a candle to me. Now I think we'd both be better off if you show me your tits.
Yeah, my brother sits next to a crying guy.
Yeah.
Offended by everything.
And now I'm offended by everything because I'm with the right now. Hey!
I'm one of them dark guys, you know? But hey, I don't got anything against them. Different strokes.
Yeah, but if he dated my sister, I'd give him a slap.
Just a backhand, you know.
Unless
keep
they're
him
a
honest.
Trump supporter.
Yeah.
30 years in prison, you know.
Make a Lifetime movie about it.
I got born because I kissed the, you know what? The ring, the ring. We're talking about the ring of Trump, folks.
I gotta go pin some masks to a wall. I'm getting shit done, yeah.
You like that?
With the Trump
Oh, man, they really did that.
Hey, by the way, right now,
Yeah,
people
they
who
made
are
it
watching,
quilt, yeah.
right below here, hit that shit. You think the left wants D.C. desperately to be a state? First, let's go. Yeah, first we do have, just so you don't have to take my word for it or Gerald's word for it, it's all over the media. We have all the sources available at louderwithcrowder.com. We try and do this just so people know if we're actually addressing a claim. We try Yogi who could fit in it. Sorry, I have to go for my slumber and fit in its person. Carry me to my work desk.
There's a voice in our democracy. Statehood.
Carry me to my work desk.
Oh
Like
my God.
Rivers Cuomo in a box, circa Pinkerton. Okay, let's go to a montage where you can see them making this claim that it needs to be a state.
By voting for D.C. statehood, the House of Representatives reaffirms this truth that all
Obey.
deserve a voice in our democracy. To hear Congresswoman Holmes Norton talk about equality for the
Surprised
people
those
of the
pearls don't
District
weigh the front of her
Columbia.
head down like that
Equality
dipping duck.
because of equal representation in the Congress.
54% of the American people support statehood for their nation's capital. As a result of the hearing,
DC's a state, Charlie
and the
Brown.
markup, they learned what they did not know. That the residents of their own nation's capital
Did they just
didn't
pull her
have
out
the
of a
same
burning
rights
house?
they have.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, my hair.
All right, look. So first off, D.C. was never intended to be a state. In Federalist 43,
By the way, that's Eleanor Norton, delegate for
Eleanor
DC.
Norton.
Oh, I
Yeah,
never
we're going to get into
we
how
will
often-
Burn
sue
victim,
Miss
Eleanor.
Okay.
Victim Eleanor. whoever.
According to Federalist 43, James Madison wrote, and I'm going to read it here, the indispensable necessity of complete authority at the seat of government carries its own evidence with it. Without it, a dependence of the members of the general government on the state comprehending the seat of government might bring on the national councils an imputation of all or influence. Read that as them having a little bit of power over the federal government, right? And we'll talk about that in just a second as well. Another truth, in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution specifically prohibits D.C. statehood, so we've got another overlay there, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square. That's really the only thing about D.C. You can't make it bigger than 10 square miles.
You can't build higher than the Capitol.
That's true, too, right? What is it, 666 feet?
Yeah.
As may by
Yes.
session of particular states and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States. All right, so the reason that this is all an issue is because a bill just passed the House and is going to the Senate, right? So everybody's talking about it right now. It's the cause du jour, essentially, of the Democrat Party. They're saying there's no representation. Well, D.C. already does have representation. There are 3 electoral votes.
Mm-hmm.
They get a delegate to the House and a mayor who works with Congress, whether he wants to or not. He gets a little pissed off about that from time to time.
Yeah.
Another part of this is
when the D.C. mayor isn't smoking crack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that does happen.
So,
And before we get more into it, here's a word from my sponsor. My sponsors are you guys, those who support me on PayPal or Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
you might ask this question.
I got these cheeseburgers.
You might ask the question, okay, so who is D.C.'s representative to or delegate to Congress? Well, that is Miss Eleanor Norton.
Oh,
right.
Let's go back to this is the Charlie Brown lookalike contest?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, Eleanor Norton.
She wins.
What's wrong with that idea? This is a democracy, and nobody's asked Maryland about that. Maryland gave the land. Maryland gave the land
Why is Christopher Lambert laughing over
irretrievably
this?
for the nation's capital. You can't go back to where you were given irretrievably and where they don't want you back. Look, there's only one option left. That's the statehood option. Across the United States today, Americans are taking down the remnants of the Confederacy as symbols of inequality, just as the House of Representatives is rising up its
Spit it out.
nation's capital to ensure equality for all citizens. Every section of the country are united on the principle that
Is 51 the age of her grandson?
equality of responsibility,
Someone's like 400.
such as paying federal income taxes.
I don't know that first one. Did you hear it when she was laughing?
I
So
know.
the host thought he should start laughing.
Yeah.
He sounded like Christopher Lamb. You know, we were just talking right in.
Yeah.
I was like, "You will engage in mortal
Yeah.
combat."
Well, this is like Kamala Harris before Kamala Harris, I guess, right? So, I mean, this isn't the most logical argument. They don't want us back. Did you hear her say that in the clip? They said, talking about Maryland, they don't want us back. I'm like, may have tipped your hand there just a little.
Maybe. So basically, it seems like they're kind of right on this situation. The right is its way. Ironically, right in the situation if they weren't massive hypocrites and wanting more states that we don't need, like Canada, Greenland, possibly in the Panama Canal. But oopsie doopsie in the chat. Oopsie doopsie. The oopsies and the doopsies, folks. Basically, the reason why DC is not a state because of neutrality, because it's the capital, and most, if I'm correct, capitals are states for obvious reasons. It's supposed to stay neutral. It's supposed to represent the sort of separation of federal and state. And Democrats apparently want states' rights for, in this case, for a non-states' rights issue. So the right is ironically right for this one in 2021. 2025 now? Not so much.
Really, you really assume racism everywhere.
Yes, pretty much.
It's not a place that I would assume they're like, no, we don't want you. We're one of those Southern Confederacy states.
Not so much, right? Okay, so let's just get a little bit of background on her. In 1990, just months before she assumed office in D.C. As the representative, it was revealed that Norton and her husband had failed to file D.C. income tax returns for, 7 years, 1982 to 1989. Some would say that is an important thing to remember. Put that on the to-do list next
She's
time.
like an untalented person of color, Willie Nelson.
Yeah, exactly. Then in 2010, things couldn't get worse. A voicemail was leaked of Norton using her office and influence to shake down lobbyists.
And before we go to this clip, I just want to we're going to get again to the macros to why DC can't be a state, but it's important to know that this person is the spearhead, right? This person is the one who's really pulling the strings. This person is the one who has the power to influence people in Washington, D.C. And you might be a liberal, you might be a conservative, you might be a libertarian, you might be a Donald Trump supporter. I know that we have different factions, different political stripes who watch this show. But when we talk about the elite, we are talking about career politicians who live in D.C., don't pay taxes, and then use their position of authority to shake down lobbyists for cash. Here is the audio.
Frankly, surprised to see that we don't have a record, so far as I can tell, of your having given to me, despite my long and deep work. In fact, it's been my major work.
Is this a porn video?
The committee and subcommittee.
The audio isn't broken, folks. It's like, how do you get this in porn video? I don't. It's all about sex for the right. It's all about race for the left. It's all about sex for the right, I guess. Race and sex. That's all it is, folks.
Essentially in your sector. I'm simply candidly calling to ask for a contribution. The senior member of the committee, a subcommittee chair, we have obligations to raise.
She just needs about 2,780 thank yous, please. That'll be very good for the country.
I think it must have been me who hadn't, frankly,
But really, if you think about it, she's just asking for friendship integrity. She's just, she's just for integrity.
Contribution earlier. Wow. Trying to make up for it by asking
Contribution integrity. That's very important. That's all she wants. Nothing weird here.
Those of us who have the seniority and the chairmanship and position to raise the fund.
Why didn't anyone coach this lady? And it's not that she wasn't coached on not using the word contribution. They would say, like, use words like, I don't know, maybe give me a little something. I don't know, maybe treat Eleanor, treat Sugar Mama right. Something like that. It's that she is so not worried about accountability because she hasn't paid taxes, because she isn't beholden to any kind of private sector employees or profit motive, that she's like,
Do we at least know her tax returns?
Look, give me some money.
And you know what? There were...
What? Why? Why? Why?
There are actually a few other...
We get it. Right-wing comedy's dead. You don't need to flower. You need to show its corpse around. Like, seriously.
Involved in that scandal in
Have some
2010, like
respect.
Nancy Pelosi notably was one.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Except Bill Maher. Bill Maher was actually still kind of funny, though.
We didn't include her is because, one, we're talking about Eleanor, two, no one else was that dumb to leave a voicemail.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she's literally the female version of Rod Blagojevich, right?
Wow.
He's sitting in jail pissed off because she's still out there. So really, that's the whole point of this. Let's give that corrupt person who's less than smart, shall we say, power in the House, because that's exactly
and like I said, the reason that this segment just is so intensely uninteresting to me, because I researched it a long time ago.
Well, again, thank you, Stephen.
No, the sniff test is when people say, why isn't DC a state? You go, why isn't DC a state? And then you just look into a brief history. You go, oh, because it's meant to be a place where people are impartial. You have some people right now in the media, they go, well, why aren't they in DC? Why aren't they paying their taxes in DC? Because what we're supposed to have are people who pay taxes in their home states and represent their constituents going to a neutral territory, the state capital. That is the reason for it. It wasn't by accident, and I know people who can't be bothered to read the Constitution will assume that it's an accident, but it's not. And
it's ironic because when you read the Constitution, what a lot of Christians want to do via Christian nationalism, maybe not a lot, but the minority, very loud minority, they just forget what the Constitution says about Christian nationalism. It's quite clear. No.
Been reiterated many times.
And also, when it comes to right-wingers with free speech, they think they know the Constitution, but they keep kind of forgetting that, oh wait, no, that's not a free speech issue there. Again, AP, the situation with AP, might have not been a free speech issue legally, but ideally it was. Same thing with private companies who own parts of the public sphere of influence, banning and then reinstating people. Like recently with Elon Musk reinstating someone who posted child pornography and child abuse via torture on Twitter. He reinstated him because he's a QAnon nut job. That's really interesting there. What I would say morally, that's abominable. The strongest words, but he's a private company, acts as a private company, so I highly don't recommend that, but, and there are some things legally, it's like, I don't know if you can do that, but totally speaking, you can. You just have to look up more on that, but the Constitution is quite clear. It's about the government, not private companies, about speech. Prohibiting or establishing the speech thereof, religion, press, etc. Paraphrasing, kind of.
The fact that they're
First Amendment, first thing, folks.
They're assuming you are stupid, that you will just go, yeah, why isn't DC a state? And then Google will join in, and all you'll find when you run a search is DC should be a state. It won't show you the historical context or how the founding fathers and then people who ran this country thereafter were expressly against DC being a state for
I don't know if Google did dirty there. I don't know about that one.
multitude of reasons.
Yeah, well, and they'll make what sounds like a reasonable argument. Representation, that's what we just covered, right? Oh, well, okay, well, that's why we left England. We didn't get the representation we wanted, and we were taxed. Got it, that makes sense. Well, it's a little different than what they claim it is. The next claim that they make is actually about population. Well, look, the entire state of Wyoming only has about 600,000 people, they'll say, and residents of D.C., that comes to about 700,000 people. Of course we should be a state. Well, actually, that doesn't
About
matter.
600,000 too much.
Yeah.
Last time I got a speeding ticket was
there.
leaving my Wyoming, and he said,
Was it?
Yeah, he said, why were you going 90? I said, they get the hell out of Wyoming.
I didn't feel like there was a chance of hitting anything.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Yeah, they call it the big sky state because you'd rather look up than at it.
Well, look, so it doesn't really matter, again, how big an area is. That's not really the qualification for a state. The Federalist Papers and Constitution specifically sectioned off D.C. to be a federal district and nonpartisan seat of our government, right? About 800,000 people actually work in D.C., but only 30 to 40% of them actually live in D.C.
Ah.
So that's an interesting fact that they probably aren't going to.
And what they'll argue is, well, most people who live there are poor black people, and you don't want them to vote. That's what they will argue.
Not true at all, right? And so they bring up this argument about population. Well, there's 700,000 people. Well, in fact, in 1950, there were over 800,000 people that lived in D.C. Was it still a crime then that they didn't have representation? Were you guys still beating the defenses and saying, look, we've got to have a state of D.C. here?
Yeah.
New York has a population of 20 million people. Some would say that that's more than 700,000. Should they also say, well, hey, we want to be a state now, right? So if population was the only barometer that we used for this, then that would not really work as an argument. Anyway,
so Canada, does Canada still count, or the Panama Canal or Greenland? I don't know. Does it now? I don't know. Who knows?
New York City. Yeah, I mean, New York City. New York State is obviously a state.
When you have New York, you mean the
no,
city.
To be fair, I think that's an overcount because they were.
No,
they did it by
when you mean New York, you usually mean the city, New York. I mean, come on.
Imaging by imaging, and they counted the piles of hobo shit.
That's true.
San Francisco population has gone way up as well,
and it's 38 billion.
Just like
count the rats.
Just like you know how
Wouldn't
Spider-Man
New
would be
York,
useless in
though?
the suburbs, of course. Well,
Yeah,
on that.
agreed.
Predator would be useless in San Francisco. It's heat seeking.
Oh, that's
He'd be
true,
thrown
yeah.
off by all the Cuban shit.
Well,
Like
Predator
trying to stab pieces of shit on the ground. Like
Predator 2 was L.A. though.
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
You imagine being Predator and you like turn on your vision. You're like, there's women. And they said, oh, you were actually in the district of Massachusetts or Maine, right? And so they're saying the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected constitutionally prescribed, right? So if you're confused about the issue, Article 4, Section 3 makes it very clear. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state. Clear. Nor any state formed by the junction of two or more states or parts of states without the consent of legislatures of the states as well as Congress, right? So those states have to agree, we're going to do this in their legislatures, then it goes to Congress. You can't just sign an executive order, and you can't just push for it randomly.
So
right?
you need to find a
Like
state.
the Department of Education being terminated and all those things, and PBS being targeted because it's an innocent network with kids, and it speaks about real world issues and issues that's going on in the nation, like protests. Oh gosh, oh no.
Who is
How
willing
dare they?
to
A willing partner.
If Maryland is kind, they'll take them in as one of their own.
They will not do that. And in this case, Maryland gave up part of its land to create D.C., so Maryland can't give permission to make it a state because it's no longer their
Well, that's
land.
what she was saying. They don't want us back. Correct. But it's just D.C.
No one wants you.
No one specific. I mean, you specifically.
All of
But
it.
we get your connotations. I'm just agreeing with you for different reasons because you're horrible.
A little bit less reason that makes any sense. I want power. Right now in the Senate, what do we have? We have an equal sharing of power. Not a whole lot's getting done because we have people crossing the aisle with these crazy ideas. And they're saying, if we have a state, we get 2 more Senate seats, forever controlled by Dems. That is the...
And was one of the reasons I would say don't make Canada another state, because it's overwhelmingly going to be quite progressive in the sense, or overwhelmingly Democrat. Greenland, maybe not. Panama Canal, maybe, and the other one, because there's like so many things that Trump wants to have a state on. It's hard to, let's see, Panama Canal, Canada, Greenland, there was another one. I don't know why I am. Maybe those are there were 4. In the comments, folks. But the point is, I don't think you would want that.
And by the way, what's important to note, also the reason for an aggressive push, because we know that this has happened after the census, right? Texas gained. Did Texas gain 2 seats, or they gained 2?
Two in the House.
Two in the House. Two in the House. Sorry, and then other states. I know New York lost 1. California. I don't think any states lost 2, but it was a net gain for Republicans, right? Now, here's the thing.
For sure.
That was based on population, right? And hey, New York, if you just allowed your police officers to stop 80 of the extra murders, you wouldn't have lost a seat.
Yeah.
Let's talk about shooting yourself and all of your citizens in the foot. So this is what, look at the difference. They gain seats in the House with this census because of population within the states appropriate. And now the power grab comparatively is we don't want to involve the states. It's not actually based on, and it's not based on historical precedent. We just want this because, you know what, we're losing some power now because people are leaving liberal areas for conservative areas. We have to try and shift this balance.
Right. And
which could be also the reason why Trump wants Canada, Greenland, and Panama Canal, and the other one. I forgot. I'm sorry. The other one, I think. Again, comments down below if you know the other one, if I'm correct. Or at least those three. Is because I think he somewhat knows midterms might not be the best for Republicans. We might legitimately get a blue wave at this point. I mean, Wisconsin. And also, I think Michigan as well, Massachusetts. Liberal won. So, Australia and Canada, the Liberals won. So, the tide seems to be shifting more quicker than I think anticipated. So, maybe that's one of the reasons why. That's what it seems like. Maybe. Or at least people who I would say respectfully is the President of the United States, the office at least, office, more smarter people in a sense, more the furious, immoral people are like, we want these things because we kind of see what's the tide's going, and it's going back to their direction
it was never
very
supposed
quickly.
to be a place that you were supposed to go and live your life. You were supposed to go represent your constituents and then go home. Right. And to be able to vote in your home state and stuff like that as well. But so, lest you take our word for it, Eleanor Norton comes to the rescue and was even asked this point blank on Good Morning America. And she kind of pulled a Biden where she answered a question she wasn't asked.
Yeah, she said the quiet part out loud.
The filibuster.
Yeah. Here you go.
Or she did the weave.
Here's your Representative Charlie Brown talking about filibuster.
There are Republicans in the Senate who believe
You're
this
such
is
a blockhead,
to
Eleanor.
add more seats to the Democrat side of things. What do you say to them?
Give me my football.
What
back.
I say to them is that I think the tomb is bursting open. We saw the Senate late organizing, and the reason had to do with the filibuster. The reason Democrats got hold of the Senate this time was because of the filibuster, and the Republicans were passing nothing.
I mean, that if I'm correct, that was true. I mean,
she said what she was.
She says the quiet parts out loud and allows them to be recorded on television and voicemail.
Right. And now,
never say anything you don't want.
But not Signal though. So you gotta give her that.
Read back to you in court, and she leaves it.
She committed the cardinal sin of being honest as a politician, and you can never do that apparently, right? Because the abolishing the filibuster, you know that they've been talking about this to try to get things through Congress. That is the first step Democrats need to take to make sure that their agenda goes through. Expanding mail-in voting, crazy gun laws, free college.
Why are you laughing?
This topic of D.C. state.
How dare free college, folks?
As well.
I was laughing.
He's laughing at Joe Lewis. Right? He's got the bat dog ear going on.
I'm not. I find things funny.
Joe Lewis, stop being so damn cute.
I'm only here for the humor.
You're not. You're here for all of it.
Well, this is actually the first time I've learned any of this because people have asked me questions, and I always realize it's the point of equality, right? And that's what I don't get. Equality good, except in DC bad.
Right. Well, I mean, basically, that's what the argument has been.
Right.
I've disabused you of that notion. I love DeSantis saying it, by the way.
You.
And look, there is a solution to this. If they really are worried about representation, if they're like, guys, this is absolutely unfair, we have to take care of it. Okay, give the land back to Maryland, just like we did for Virginia, right? Gave them the land back. Keep all of the federal land. Let them do their own thing like they want to do, but give all the other land back to Maryland. Then Maryland's legislature has to vote to make it a state. Then Congress has to approve it. Then the Senate has to approve it, and it goes to the president's desk. This isn't complicated. That is the only way that
just sounded very complicated.
No.
Well, I mean, for conservatives, it might have been, but for the centrists, I think we figured it out. But speaking of, I don't know, a commercial, because I think we all know that we need a commercial break, and I'll be right back, folks.
Alright, this is not just some sponsor or
Patreon plug. It's about following Him, the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. If you want to follow Him, if you want to give your life to Christ today, prayer is in the description down below. But if you're a backslider and you want to rededicate your life to Christ, prayer is in the description down below for you too. But if you want the gift, the free gift that Jesus Christ can only give, Jesus is the only Holy Ghost baptizer. If you want to be baptized in the Holy Ghost with the evidence of speaking in tongues, prayer is in the description down below. It might be way up there, or way down there in the description. Just depends on how long my description is for my show, my podcast. So, yeah, if you want to give your life to Christ, or if you're back there, you want to rededicate your life to Christ, or if you want the baptism of the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues, those prayers are in the description down below. But if you forgot about it, or if you're wrestling with it, and you finally decide, okay, I am going to get saved, or okay, I am going to rededicate my life to Christ, or okay, I am going to be baptized in the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues, all of those three prayers are in all of my videos. The first one to this one, and to the ones to come, all of those three prayers are in the description down below for all of my videos. So if you do forget, or if you are wrestling with it, and you finally decided, okay, I am going to do this, whether it's giving your life to Christ, rededicating your life to Christ, or being baptized in the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking in tongues, those three prayers are always in the description down below in every video that I make. Alright, I'm back.
That sounded very complicated. Let me simplify it for you. They're not a state because it was never designed to be a state, and they wanted it to continue not being a state so that people could represent their states in an unbiased municipality. That's exactly what it is. Why it exists.
Alright, that's a good simplification of it.
Said, oh, by the way, we're going to put in safeguards to make sure that it continues that way. That's it. It's over. Stop making an argument that D.C. needs to be a state. It's the same tired. They want D.C. to be a state. Pack the court, do away with the Electoral College, federal law,
voter IDs.
We don't want to have voter IDs. Think about this for a second.
Unbelievable.
We're going to release serial violent felons in California. And by the way, push for laws that people who violently abuse their fellow citizens have their right to vote. We want to pack the court. We want D.C. to be a state. Bring in a record number of illegal immigrants, give them an immediate path to citizenship, no voter ID, which every single other super far left European nation looks at us and says, "Quoi?" They have no idea how crazy this has become. Yeah. The American left is significantly further left than the European left now, outside of maybe income taxes and abortion in some countries. You need to know how far we've gone.
That's somewhat true.
The Republicans have gone further right and the left has gone further left. It's the left has gone so far left that the right, even going a little left, which they are, Republican, Donald Trump, first president, including Obama, by the way, to actually be inaugurated supporting gay marriage. For crying out.
Until he saw that that wasn't doing so well for him, so he kind of switched sides with, essentially mainly with trans people, because if you actually look at his history of trans people, it was actually more liberal of it, actually. But now he can't be, because, that looks bad on the right now.
He was like the runner-up was to Arsenio Hall was Cyndi Lauper. She's only done lesbian things for the last 3 decades.
That's pretty much.
She bops.
Can you imagine?
It's funny too. This website, Washington.org, it's like Washington D.C.'s official website for like visiting D.C., press, sports, all that stuff. Yeah. They say, though a capital city, it is ironic that residents of Washington lack full self-governance, and that's on their History of Washington D.C. page.
Yeah.
They don't even know their own history.
They don't know their own history.
It's the trade-off, the danger of having it be its own state. You don't want that. You don't want a state exerting power over the federal government. That was the whole point to begin with. Done. Argument over. Move on.
Well, they don't believe in historical context. They don't believe in precedent. They don't believe in actual founding intent in the country.
Yeah, like the right and conservatives and Republicans care. Yeah. Trump 2028, folks. No, they
That's
don't.
what they think. Well, actually,
literally, some Republican representatives are trying to literally say, yes, Trump can be an emperor. Basically, yes, third term. What can go wrong?
The Second Amendment, it said.
Also, they want him to be in Mount Rushmore. These used to be sort of the radicals, but now they're a little bit more mainstream because Marjorie Taylor Greene is mainstream now. So, yeah, the crazies are controlling the Republican Party. It's a gang now more than a party at this point. And lunatic Laura Loomer is in charge of firing people, apparently, in a sense. Come on.
The right to keep...
But he didn't know that in 2021. But I don't know what he thinks now in 2025, but... based on his recent thing with Meet the Press, it seems like he will excuse it. I don't know.
Their arms shall not be infringed, the right of the people, right? They go, actually, we interpret this as meaning that people have no right to own firearms whatsoever.
At all.
You go, well, how does that how does that mesh with the Constitution? Go ahead.
Kind of like the First Amendment. The right's interpretation is, well, no, actually, when we say something, we can say whatever we want, but on the left, we have to censor because, it's actually bad. And if criticism also is illegal, you can't criticize us because that's anti-free speech, actually. The government somehow established it because somebody from Twitter said that you were a racist. So, therefore, anti-free speech there. Does it make sense? No, it's not supposed to make sense.
Yeah, that quote from this page.
Very nice.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So, and you guys can let us know what your opinion is. I want to hear what what maybe a month and a half ago when they started covering it after we were covering it, saying we had to do something. Sorry, Asian Americans, you've been used. But here, let's go back to a time when they cared about you.
But before we get into that, let's catch up with my comments. It's kind of true about how sometimes Democrats need things, I guess I'm trying to say, but when they don't need it, they're against it. Yeah, sometimes, like sometimes a filibuster. Republicans pretty much do nothing, at least nothing good now, especially now in 2025 at this point. And do nothing in the 4 years of Trump. Literally, McConnell's desk was full of mountains of papers just sitting there. So yeah, that's true. It's pretty much what I sometimes say about the two parties. When Democrats have power, they tend to do a lot. They tend to do a lot or try to do a lot, if not too much. And when Republicans have power, they tend to do nothing, if not go or try to go back to the way things were, because, but not anymore now, because, 2028 Trump apparently is a good idea, apparently. Having a Mount Rushmore apparently is a good thing now, apparently. Yes, the right has gone a little bit left. No, it hasn't since the 4 years of Trump. And now the right has gone so far right that sometimes you can see the Nazi flag and Confederate flags waving as the police states come from the authoritarian mountains and the Marjorie Taylor Greens start coming from the shadows of fascism and go into Congress. That's how far some of the right has gone. So no, it hasn't gone a little bit left. At all, really. The only thing that's gone left is their exception of gay people, kind of. Even though the law-keeping Republicans recently, if I'm correct, had a recent video of one of them shouting the F slur. Okay. Sure, they're so friendly to the gay people, apparently. No, sure thing.
And a hate crime we want to document the hate crimes.
Asian American hate has been as organic to American history, not as long as discrimination against African Americans that began in 1619.
I tried out for the joke.
A steady ferment in the United States from the
he's been fermented in a
very
pickle jar.
first Asian that came to this country about in the middle of the 19th century.
I want everybody to watch this segment because it's outrageous. The NYPD investigating what they say is a hate crime assault against a 65-year-old Asian woman who was punched and kicked Monday in Midtown Manhattan by an attacker who allegedly made anti-Asian statements towards her, and that's according to the police.
It comes as the latest in a string of anti-Asian hate and violence, making this a crisis.
The Asian community. And their situation has only been getting worse.
James Corden's only qualification is adipose tissue.
That George Takei clip too. He's like,
better than you. I mean, let's be real.
Asian hate is,
that's pretty good.
It's part of American history. It says organic to American, and he's a black producer, and he's like, I'm African Americans,
but not as long as y'all. I mean, y'all were worse. What we have here is a failure to.
Yes, because that's true. Okay.
Communicate. I've been working on the railroad all the live long. Ooh, inappropriate.
Mission to take it off, boss.
Trick question.
This is all the comedy, if you could call it that, folks. Again, comedy's been dead on the right for a very long time, so you're just kind of seeing what I would call alternative comedy, because it's not comedy.
I'm not wearing pants. Look, when they built the wall, they just threw the bodies in the wall. It's not like we're the first people.
Hey, what's going on CNN? That guy on the left looks like he's...
I mean, you're right. We're not the first people who build a wall based on discrimination. You got a point there.
He's appearing through exclusively the left lens of 3D glasses in the 1990s.
That's actually 2080 Mo Rocca.
Yeah. You see this everywhere. They tried to paint this as what? White supremacy, right? White supremacy. And there are quite a few. We're going to go through quite a few examples of recent attacks that have taken place. Really in the last week, I think the oldest one is 10 days old. And you'll notice that with the articles, they don't mention the race, as opposed to here, the headlines that you see that always have white supremacist attack, person. If you read an article and they say they have the suspect or they've already charged the suspect, right, the criminal, and it doesn't list their name, or it usually means they're not a white person. Because if it's white, it will say white. Just like in the entertainment industry, if someone doesn't espouse politics at all, usually means they're more right-leaning, because it's only a net positive in the entertainment industry to say that you're a Democrat. It's a virtue signal that gains you notoriety points. Same thing, you put in your article, white man commits insert group, marginalized group, hate crime here. You gain points. So it's important to know. We have all this.
To an extent, that's true, because I think there was a big awakening, especially with George Floyd, that a lot of people kind of at least realized, and more realized in the sense that, wow, this is a big deal, a big issue to an extent. And sadly, Democrats especially now are at least somewhat sane. So, you know what? Because also the reason why most of the time right-wingers don't talk about their politics in Hollywood, because you get Kevin Sorbo, who's a crazy nut job. So, you know, that's also kind of like us. Their politics are literally insane. Well, the politics of Democrats in Hollywood, or at least less sane. They're not insane, but they are less sane sometimes. Or at least dumb, let's be frank here. Or high, like Katy Perry, who knows.
It's available at louderwithcrowder.com. You hit the link in the description. Crimes. Something else, too, that facts matter, statistics matter, and we can't necessarily explain the exact reason why, but if you are surprised to learn that there's a little bit of tension between the Black American and Asian American community, perhaps you should check your dumb asshole privilege, because
based on what I know of, there actually isn't that much. I think the reason why there could be is more of a tribalistic, not necessarily racial lens, because because depending on your neighborhood, you also have Chinese people and you also have Black people, and sometimes it's not necessarily race, it's mainly culture sometimes, or at least tribalistic comes in and things of that nature. Tribalism comes in and things of that nature, and it's a little more complicated than just their race, but you know.
Has been going on for a very long time in this country, in San Francisco.
But I could be wrong, because I'm a Black person in the South, so. But I also live in Louisiana, so.
Where a lot of these crimes have been taking place, over 85% of physical assault crimes, all physical assault crimes against Asians, were committed by a black attacker.
That doesn't mean it's based on race, though. If you're going to do the conservative viewpoint here, it doesn't mean anything. It just might mean class. Because maybe a lot more Asian people are richer than black people, which could be because of racism to an extent. Not necessarily Asians against blacks, but white people against black people, obviously. But systematically, in a sense. Not every white person, obviously. I'm not a radical online leftist, but the point is, if you're doing the conservative lens, it's either class or culture. It can't be race, but, once you have a point to prove against black people, it seems here for Steven Crowder at this point, at least back then, especially possibly even now, then it becomes race. Then race actually has a factor. That's quite interesting there. That's just interesting.
Wow. Blacks make up the largest percent of perpetrators of of violent crimes against Asians. Look, sometimes it's a robbery and they happen to be Asian. That's also a problem with crime statistics because they can just file it under a hate crime. Now, well, look,
that's somewhat true too, but also something a lot of people are somewhat skeptical of certain medicine or masks because of the Tuskegee Airmen situation, horrible, terrible event there. So there's that, and but surprisingly, not every black person is quite liberal. Well, depending where you are, especially in the South, they might be quite conservative. So, once you get discriminatory language, which I will talk about a little bit later on this video, my comments here, maybe a lot of black people might think that's a good discriminatory lens to have with Chinese people. Whether they vote Republican or Democrat, because this might be hard for some people to know. Just because you vote a certain way of a party doesn't mean, therefore, you're ideologically with them 100%. There's a lot of black people who are Democrat in the South, but they're usually conservative black and Democrats, actually.
What was the crime? Murder doesn't need a footnote, but we do wonder that there has been an increase, and they want you to believe it's because of Kung Flu or Donald Trump saying that this came from Wuhan, meaning being geographically accurate.
Like we've done.
Yes, but here's the problem, though. There's a difference between that and just saying COVID-19 because it's called COVID-19. We don't need to say the country of origin because we already have a label as COVID-19. We don't need that. Spanish flu, if I'm correct, is a little bit different. Also, if I'm correct, there wasn't an uptick of Spanish people being the victim of hate crimes when we call it a Spanish flu. Because I think times are kind of different.
Other diseases and pandemics in the past.
Yeah, they want you to think that Donald Trump was up there with a topographical mask going, look, that's where the yellows are.
He is racist. Like,
oh, jeez, that was rough.
Utah! Go to Utah!
That's a bad Chinese person. Chuck Schumer's a bad Chinese person.
Letters again, you know that. Catholics one day, Mormons the next.
This was May 5th. 85-year-old Chui Feng was stabbed while waiting for the bus in Chinatown. By the way, if you have children, I recommend they probably don't stick around. I don't think we show anyone here obviously getting killed, but there are some. These are beatings that you can find either on YouTube or on these news websites. I think it's important for you guys to understand the context. Not a trigger warning. I just don't think kids should be watching this. Especially if they're like,
that's literally a trigger warning. That's a disclaimer, at least.
Goonies little slick shoes. They'll never sleep again. No. So
it is a stabbing warning.
It is a stabbing warning.
Not for this.
Not for this one.
Yeah.
Not for this one.
Yeah.
This is Chui Feng, 85-year-old, was beaten, stabbed, waiting for a bus in Chinatown. They don't specify the race. Again, source of loudscouter.com. Want to guess why?
The family of 85-year-old Chu Fong said she'd been waiting for the bus Tuesday evening after buying groceries in Chinatown.
She's independent. She's very headstrong, and if she has to do something, she's going to do it. So, yeah, that's just her.
This was Drew is her grandson. He says he didn't want to show his face, feeling like his family has suddenly been thrown into the spotlight. Fong was stabbed at 4th and Market Tuesday evening, along with another 63-year-old Asian woman. Both are expected to survive. Fong, though, remains in the hospital.
Now, you notice in that story they didn't give you the suspect.
Not at all.
No. Well, they know who it is. 54-year-old Patrick Thompson, and he has a history of deadly assault. He has a history of committing crimes. Oh, there you go.
Well, that's fine. I'm sure they'll just bring him into the police station in New York and let him write out.
Right.
Catch and release.
Also in San Francisco, this was May 5th. Dad pushing a stroller.
San Francisco, whatever.
What did I say?
Did I say San Francisco? I said New York.
You said New York.
That
makes more sense.
Did I say illegal? Thanks for having my back.
There's so many Chinatowns.
There's so many Chinese.
There's so many liberal hellholes.
It's my bad.
I can't feel a thing, Bill. You can do it all day. Can you do it all day? San Francisco, dad pushing a stroller, punched until he fell to the ground. This is May 5th. Another clip.
We are getting new exclusive surveillance footage of another brutal attack in San Francisco. Now, this one was captured at Gus's Market in Mission Bay on Friday. Check this out. Police say an Asian father who was pushing his 1-year-old child in a stroller was suddenly beaten to the ground.
Hey, that guy has good recovery, though.
Yeah, he does.
He got clipped. I mean, look, I'm not saying that he didn't go down, but he got up.
He got up because his kid. I mean, can you imagine this? I have a son right now, and if somebody attacked me and was beating me, and my son's stroller started rolling down the street, which is what just happened there. Yeah, no, I mean it's just unbelievable.
Him. Are you encouraging violence? Yes. If someone attacks me brutally while I'm there with my kid, and my kid is now endangered, their stroller could be rolling into the street. I no longer care if you were down on luck. Maybe you need some cash. Doesn't matter.
At all.
Bang, 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 bang. Click, bang, bang, bang. Reload, bang. Okay.
Will I do all those bangs? Maybe not. I'll maybe just do 1 bang or 2 or 3, because I'm not an immoral idiot. Because, yes, that might be my child, but also I'm not a monster. Okay? I'm not going to waste my time, waste my bullets on another monster to become a monster, because I do not want that for me nor my child. I don't want that experience. So I'm gonna reasonably... Do I need to do via self-defense? I would agree. I'm not saying anything to do anything violent. But in a video game, I would do what I must do, just in case. Just in case. Just in case. Okay, this was on YouTube. This is still on YouTube. So YouTube, don't go after me, okay? So yeah, I would, but would I waste my time with, no, I got a child with a stroller. I'm gonna do maybe 3 or 4 bangs, make sure he's down, then definitely, immediately get the stroller, especially if it is going down, I gotta get it. Because, again, I'm not for the total destruction of this person, necessarily, but I will do what I need to do for me and my child. You know, so I somewhat agree, but I disagree with how far to do it, because I got a child. Boy.
That's what... Now, it's unfortunate, but that's what you deserve if you attack somebody. By the way, attacker, Sidney Hammond, he was arrested only a couple of weeks ago for assault. And keep in mind, this is at a time in California when they are releasing over 70,000 felons. Numbers, I don't have the entirely verified numbers. Low end 50-something thousand, high end 60-something thousand violent felons. Tens of thousands of violent felons being re-released.
But when you think about it, there were patriots, because some of them might have done something to police officers and they were for BLM. So when you think about it, they're all patriots. I mean, yes, bad, but they're patriots. I mean, it was a day of love, Crowder. Calm down. Okay, sure, some of them might have CP and they were arrested for that now, child pornography, but come on, they're patriots. Come on.
Onto the streets, and most of these examples are repeat offenders. Now we can go to New York City. Yaopanma, sorry, I might have the name wrong. Look.
Wait, are you saying that there's a connection between those who commit violent crimes and those who commit violent crimes?
Does that have to do anything with the race? Maybe.
It's like a choose your own path book.
Boy.
It is.
Whatever answer you want.
Well.
You know what the ending is.
Huh?
No, Dave. No.
I don't see.
No. Also, abominable snowmen don't wear sunscreen. That was an actual Goosebumps Choose Your Own Path book, and it sucked. By the way, speaking of Choose Your Own Path, here's what happens: is if it's a white attacker, right? This is what happens right now. If it's a white attacker, it's white supremacy. If it's a black attacker, it's Donald Trump. It's a byproduct. It's white supremacy.
Yeah.
If it's an Asian attacker, they're mad because people like us are talking about the realistic crime statistics regarding people who are perpetrating anti-Asian attacks against them, and it's white supremacy. So if the answer is always white supremacy, does the question really matter?
I think because it depends. It's like a river, you know? Like, you got 3 streams, but it goes back to the same river or pond or ocean or whatever. So, in a sense, yes, the question still remains. Yes, the answer might still be that. It's like me saying, okay, if all of these things lead to sin, why should I ask the question, is this a sin if it is? Well, because some people don't know that some things are a sin. You know, some people
That's
don't.
where we are with the media. Okay, this is a New York City 61-year-old Yao Pound Ma.
Or some people think some things are sins, but they're not actually sins, and depending on what it is.
The attacker. This one is, look, tough to watch. We may not want to run the whole clip, but you need to know what's going on in this country right now because the media has moved on, and I want Asian Americans out there to be safe, to have their head on a swivel. His head was stomped, leaving him in critical, roughed him up a little bit. Those police...
I heard he's in critical condition.
All right, that's enough. We get the point. He keeps going. And keep in mind that if that man was then apprehended by the police officers and tried to get away and they roughed him up a little bit, those police officers would be on trial for murder and we would exclusively empathize with him. You don't believe me? Go look at Michael Brown's rap sheet. Go look at George Floyd's rap sheet. Just because you don't have the video of the woman being pistol whipped in front of her kid when George Floyd committed an armed robbery doesn't mean it didn't happen.
True, but if I'm correct, he was trying to turn his life around, and he was murdered for not having a real dollar. So can we actually talk about the facts here, or are we gonna try to say, well, sometimes people are redeemable, sometimes they're not redeemable?
Saw George Floyd doing that. Would you have a different opinion? How would you feel if a cop subdued that guy afterward? As a matter of fact, how would you feel if after that the cop said, hey, are you high as a kite right now? And he said, no, officer. And he said, all right, let me get you into this car. Let me get you some air conditioning. You'd probably be pissed that the cop's going easy on him. So you can't just react based on...
Yeah, but I wouldn't want them to fishing kill him necessarily either, Crowder, because I'm a normal human being.
Emotion. But sometimes it's important to put that emotional, that visceral reaction into context.
True, and sometimes it's for good use, political use, but also remember that you shouldn't let your emotions control you because then you will be the monster that you are trying to stop.
How would you want a cop to treat that guy?
Well, of course, people are going to react based on emotion. That's what that guy's doing right there. He's letting rage take over, and you're stomping a guy who's already down.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's rage or it's just a guy knows that he's never going to be held accountable. So hey, good for me. It's free. It's free beating.
It's a lot.
But he was a patriot, Crowder. He was a patriot. Calm down.
People who go out, though, and fight.
The main problem I have is the inconsistency. That's mainly it. It's the inconsistency.
Where once the other person's down, they run back in.
That wasn't a fight.
No, you know what I mean. I'm not saying that was a fight.
No.
I'm not saying, hey, this was a fight.
Right. If it was, he's making a point that cowards do this.
Yes, that's
cowards.
Yeah, no, absolutely right.
Once they're down, and
cowards do this, and cowards do it under the cover of, oh, well, you're a marginalized group, so first we'll blame white people. Guess who gets hurt? Both black people and white people. Defund the police. Over 80% of black Americans want at least as much police presence or more. Guess who gets hurt? Black people.
True.
Let's say it's white supremacy, so that we can talk about Asian hatred. Guess who gets hurt? Asian Americans who are actually being assaulted in record numbers. In San Francisco, 85%. That's a statistically significant number, okay? Are you saying that Asian Americans in San Francisco should, if they're trying to stay safer, should be racially profiling? Yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying that you should be racially profiling and being aware if you are in neighborhoods where there have been anti-Asian hate crimes and there are a lot of people who are black and you are Asian. I think that you should be careful right now because 85%, and it's a staggering rise in crime in San Francisco, are being committed against Asians by black Americans.
Not racist, not bad at all, but you gotta protect yourself, guys.
I think you need to be aware and you need to understand the risks right now and you need to hold your city government accountable who has stirred up and fomented hatred. Okay? It's like, oh, hey, look, this guy robbed the bank, blonde hair, blue eyes. Are you racial profiling? Yep. If 85% of all crimes in this area were being committed against a specific group of people and they all looked like Gerald, I would keep my head on a swivel for any 6'5" guy with blonde hair, blue eyes who
nothing bad there. It wouldn't create any type of discrimination that could really possibly, maybe kill the wrong guy. He was a dad, he was a father, but he was blonde hair, blue eye, though. He was a white guy, though. I gotta be afraid of all white people, though. this is the spirit of fear in Christianity, folks. But we should have power, love, and a sound mind. Jesus Christ's name, amen. But if it's a right wing person saying it, maybe some Christians might close their morality. Sadly, but if it's a left wing person saying it, they're up in arms.
Corny jokes.
Pathetic.
9. Baltimore. This is one, and now we're getting.
But speaking of Baltimore, I don't know if I'm going to talk about it, but I will talk about my comments, though. Yes, I got to catch up. Stuff like Wuhan virus and Chinese virus and Kung flu can cause discrimination because of how it's used, and it's not needed in general. We need more info about why it is. I encourage you to look at SARS videos of that topic. I think Source talked about how, this was, the anti-Asian hate crime going up because of stuff like discrimination of Chinese virus, things of that nature. That was a very long time ago video. Very long too, possibly, if I'm correct as well. Either I'm going to have it here or I'm going to have it in my description down below. I might have it there, This is the main problem with you. You're literally exploiting to fit your narrative on how George Floyd and other black people who died by police were not saints. Everybody knows this. This is a problem with conservatives. You don't let go of losses that you know that you lose because you conserve everything because for the sake of it, and that's just sad. It is. It's sad. It really is sad. Saddening. It really is. And I do feel like there's something wrong inside of you, maybe like a spirit or an illness like fascism, like Crowder went from we should still talk about these Asian hate crimes, which we should, but he went from that to George Floyd wasn't a saint randomly. Nobody is saying this. Move on. Okay. They're something that you can move on, and sometimes you don't move on. We can't move on sometimes in some things, because some conservatives deny the election of 2020, and they said that it was fraud. It wasn't fraudulent. Still, some conservatives still deny that the insurrection was by the right, or attempted possible insurrection was by the right and by Trump, or accidentally incited by Trump. So yeah, at the end of the day, sometimes you don't let go, and other times you do let go in the sense of like, true. You know that some black people voted for Trump as well, right? You do realize there are some people like Candace Owens, right? This is what we call being a racist, because you're thinking that this person is black, therefore, because a lot of times black people vote Democrat, but that's not true, or it is true according to Crowder, until it fixes your narrative. They didn't listen to Trump's anti-Asian hate, so then you just say that because of statistics that are most likely true, or you're twisting it to fit your narrative. Black people just suddenly hate Asian people, or it's been that way, but now you're talking about it, which just so happened to be after Derek Chauvin was found guilty. It all makes sense, doesn't it? Because you lost one thing with black people, now you're just trying to do something else with black people, which is racist, and you exploit and you propagandize. The thing I was trying to say is that he was trying to get black people to be conservative, but now since that didn't work, now he's shooting us in the back now, stabbing us in the back. Interesting. Crowder's own words, people. Asians should be careful or be afraid of black people pretty much because 80% of blacks do Asian hate crimes, so therefore you're an Asian person. If you're in a neighborhood with black people, just be careful. You know what that creates? Racism. Crowder. It literally is advocating for racism for black people. Of course, the fear and prejudice of black people based on a statistic that doesn't really prove the fear and discrimination, or being afraid of black people. If you're an Asian person, don't be afraid of a race, be aware of an idea, or how some people wear, right? Culture, but not a race. An idea is anti-Asian hate, or anti-Asian stuff, racism against Asians, and if you can do something about it, and stop it, or try to stop most of it, together, don't be racist, because racists use what I call statistical data and research race theory, which I will talk about later. I might still write a book on that later on in the future. And that's what you're using. Racism based on statistics, so therefore it's justified to be racist because 80% of blacks do Asian hate crimes. This is literally racism. Crowder. I mean, it is. That's basically it's racism. That's basically what it is at the end of the day.
Have you noticed that the media has all of a sudden gone radio silent? So now in Baltimore, bastion of hope that it is, 2 Korean women were beaten with a brick inside their own liquor store.
Sad to see it.
Awareness, because a lot of people. There you go. We've seen enough.
Hey, real quick, if you want to dedicate your life to Christ, aka get saved, or if you're a backslider and want to rededicate your life to Christ, or if you want the baptism of the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking with tongues, those prayers are in the description down below.
No one is paying.